As we look out our Ryanair window at the hazy, misty, rocky islands we are leaving behind, we found ourselves really kind of sad to leave the Emerald Isle. Although our travels now take us on eastward toward sunshine, baguettes, berets, and artwork that the boys have really only read about in books, I believe we leave our very first love in the tailwind of Ireland. Our memories over the past 9 days have been scattered, but quite appropriately, like the many rocks and boulders that dot the hillsides, the cliffs, and the mountains of that brilliant Irish country. Yes, as every American that hits those rocky shores, we found ourselves in search of the pot of gold at the base of the rainbow. Although the opportunity to witness a rainbow was fairly plentiful given all the rain, I'm convinced that each of us did indeed find the pot of gold in Ireland. The search took us from coast to coast through some of the most picturesque villages often depicted in Disney movies and postcards. We admired the many flowering pots beside the incredibly narrow roads, the pub window boxes, and the many gardens that were meticulously cared after, never really looking thirsty thanks to all the rain. All of these were as beautiful and as inspiring as the countless heritage and pride that permeates the very soil that my family left behind just a few generations ago. We went to Northern Ireland in the original hopes to find a tangible shred of evidence of our small family heritage. But the irony of the 2 days we spent in Northern Ireland were neither focused on finding our past or in an attempt to convince ourselves that somehow we'd be worthy to label ourselves as Irish natives. We decided, therefore, not to search for our surname, that really it's not mine and it's not the boys and it's not our families anymore. Only just a small piece of the past that connects us to relatives that, had we gone to find and knock on their door, would have been pretty suspicious for bright-eyed Americans looking to check a box while on an Irish trip. So what we discovered instead of our Irish heritage was the rare opportunity to truly get to know each other. As not only a traveling family of a mother and 3 boys, but as a family that took the time to get to know one another again and discover who we really are and what we mean to each other. We decided to make our own history in real time, uncovering the simplistic beauty of every Irish gem that was laid out in front of us. And as we tightly rounded each and every curving bend of the scenic causeway driving up the eastern coast of Northern Ireland, we took the time to pet the slugs, to photograph the snails, and really contemplate whether Finn the Giant was real or only folklore. And we decided it wasn't important to definitively answer that genealogy question, but only to contemplate and commit to each other that we would take future generations to share in our experiences and what we found in Ireland. So as we wrapped up our trip in Northern Ireland and we headed back south to Southern Ireland toward County Kerry, we marveled at the many castles and medieval towers that grace the landscape alongside the very impressive wind turbines that resembled really more of an outer space creation than the turbines that they were. And it struck us as the juxtaposition of the early structures of the castles and the towers, and that those were built to protect the villages and the people so that they would be able to continue on a country and a heritage for many generations to come. That perhaps that's the same mindset that these very large wind turbines also do with their large metal twirling blades, in a way that only the Irish can do, and conserving energy and being so conscious about themselves and their future and the country itself. We felt like perhaps that's the modern tower or the modern castle as a way to continue on the generations to come. And then moving on from that, as we eagerly watched out for every sheep herd we could find and carefully ensure not to run over any of them that had broken away from their herds to greener pastures beyond, we really couldn't help but think how very much like those sheep we had become during our days in Ireland. Because the lumbering convoys of tour buses that wind around the countryside and into the beautiful villages that carried anxious travelers and tourists willing to overpay and in search of all-you-can-eat buffets and a quick roundabout and another picture to take on your phone, all in search of a leprechaun to retrieve the pot of gold for them. These tourists resembled to us more of those herds. They were necessary and certainly welcomed by the natives of Ireland, and definitely very, very nice people. However, we found ourselves really wanting to avoid those sheep herds. And I think, therefore, that is why we identified more with the rogue sheep that slipped through the rickety metal fence in search of a different mountain to climb or rocks to overturn. So I suppose our trip to both the Republic of Ireland and to Northern Ireland is best summed up in the most inspiring words of Robert Frost. I shall be telling this with a sigh. Somewhere ages and ages hence, two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. However, in our case, we took many less traveled roads and very narrow lanes for a total of 1,318 kilometers, or translated into US terms, 819 miles. But it was worth every minute, every mile, and every bit of money spent. So I'll end our little Irish segment of the Baker 2015 trip by definitively stating that we found our pot of gold in every person we met along our journey. The gold is their incredibly generous hearts and minds that they all shared with us, and not once did we feel threatened by a stranger on the street or in the way of the many Irish moms, cousins, aunts, uncles, nieces, or friends that all of our friends had so meticulously and carefully set up for us. But I'm sure on many countless occasions we were, quote unquote, in the way, but we couldn't tell. Although I'm sure many of the families that helped set that up for us, I'm sure they know that we probably were in the way. But using words like thank you, sincerely appreciate, heartfelt gratitude, and eternally grateful just all seem so predictable, when what we really want to say is thank you. Thank you for giving us the time of our lives to share in a heritage and country that is unspoiled, panoramic, and picturesque. It is clear to see where so many of our Irish friends have inherited their wondrous ambition for life and uplifting devotion towards their family and friends. We would be honored to know that our Irish relatives from generations past also shared in just a wee bit of that Irish grit that will take us back to Ireland again someday. However, the next time, I'm taking Greg too. So thank you. Thank you for a fantastic, beautiful trip. We owe you.